The rain had been coming down hard all evening, making the roads slick and dangerous. Thomas gripped the steering wheel a little tighter as he drove through the upscale part of town, a neighborhood where he normally wouldn't find himself. His 8-year-old daughter, Maya, sat in the back seat, humming along to a song on the radio, completely oblivious to her father's tension about the weather. They'd just left her grandmother's house after dinner, and Thomas was eager to get home. Tomorrow was a big day at the construction site, and he needed to be up early. Being a single dad meant his schedule was always packed, always racing against the clock. But he wouldn't trade it for anything. Maya was his whole world. "Dad, can we stop for ice cream?" Maya asked, her voice hopeful. Thomas glanced at the clock on the dashboard. It was already past 8. "It's a bit late, sweetheart. How about we get some tomorrow after I pick you up from school? Promise?" "Promise," he said, smiling at her through the rearview mirror. That's when he saw it. Up ahead, maybe 200 feet, a pair of headlights were swerving erratically. The car, some kind of expensive-looking sedan, was going way too fast for these wet conditions. Thomas eased off the gas, creating more distance between them and the vehicle in front. "Stay back from that one," he muttered to himself. But within seconds, everything went wrong. The sedan hit a patch of standing water and hydroplaned, spinning completely out of control. Thomas watched in horror as the car crashed through a decorative barrier and came to a violent stop at the edge of a concrete wall. Beyond that wall was a 15-foot drop straight down to the river. His heart jumped into his throat. Without thinking, Thomas pulled over to the side of the road and threw the car into park. "Dad, what's happening?" Maya's voice was small, scared. "Stay in the car, baby. Lock the doors. Don't get out no matter what. I'll be right back." He turned to look at her, making sure she understood. "Maya, I'm serious. Stay here." She nodded, her eyes wide. Thomas jumped out into the rain and ran toward the crashed vehicle. As he got closer, he could see smoke rising from the hood. The car was teetering, its front wheels hanging over the edge of the wall. One wrong move and the whole thing could slide right into the water below. He approached carefully, his construction boots finding grip on the wet pavement. Through the shattered driver's side window, he could see a young woman slumped against the steering wheel. She was conscious but dazed, blood trickling down from a cut on her forehead. "Hey, can you hear me?" Thomas called out. The woman lifted her head slightly, her eyes unfocused. What happened?" "You've been in an accident. I need you to stay calm, okay? Don't move around too much." He could hear the car creaking, settling. Every second counted. Thomas looked around frantically. There were other cars passing by, but no one else was stopping. His phone was in his pocket, and he knew he should call for help, but there wasn't time. This car could go over any second. "I'm going to get you out," he said, trying to sound more confident than he felt. The driver's door was jammed shut from the impact. Thomas ran around to the passenger side, but that door wouldn't budge either. The car groaned again, shifting slightly toward the edge. He could hear the woman inside starting to panic. "Please help me. I can't get out." Thomas made a decision. He grabbed a piece of broken concrete from the ground and used it to smash through the remaining glass of the driver's side window, clearing away the jagged edges as quickly as he could. The car lurched forward another inch. "Okay, listen to me," he said, reaching through the window. "Unbuckle your seatbelt. I'm going to pull you through this window." "I'm scared," she whispered. "I know, but I've got you. Just trust me." Her hands were shaking as she fumbled with the seatbelt. It clicked free. Thomas reached in, getting a firm grip under her arms. She was wearing an expensive-looking dress, now torn and stained with blood and airbag powder. "On 3, he said. 1, 2, 3. He pulled with everything he had. She cried out in pain as he dragged her through the window, but there was no time to be gentle. As soon as her legs cleared the frame, the car made a horrible grinding sound. Thomas grabbed her around the waist and half-carried, half-dragged her away from the vehicle. They'd made it maybe 10 feet when the sedan finally gave up its fight with gravity. It tilted forward and slid over the edge, crashing down into the river below with a massive splash. Thomas and the woman both stared at the spot where the car had been just seconds ago. "Oh my God," she breathed. "Oh my God, I was in there. I was just in there." Thomas helped her sit down on the curb away from the edge. His hands were cut up from the broken glass and his work clothes were soaked through. But none of that mattered. She was out. She was alive. "You're okay now," he said, pulling out his phone to call for help. "Just breathe. Help is coming." By the time he finished the call, he could hear sirens in the distance. Other people were finally stopping their cars, getting out to see what had happened. Thomas glanced back at his own vehicle and saw Maya's face pressed against the window, watching everything. The young woman was crying now, the shock starting to wear off. "You saved my life. That car, it would have gone in with me still inside. Don't think about that now. Just focus on breathing." The ambulance arrived first, followed quickly by 2 police cars. The paramedics immediately went to work on the woman, checking her vital signs and treating the cut on her head. A police officer approached Thomas, notepad in hand. "You the one who pulled her out?" "Yes, sir. Can I get your name and a statement?" Thomas gave him the basic information, explaining what he'd seen and what he'd done. He kept it short and simple. He didn't mention how scared he'd been, or how his heart was still pounding so hard he thought it might burst out of his chest. As they were talking, the woman was being loaded into the ambulance. She turned her head, searching for Thomas through the crowd of emergency workers. "Wait," she called out. "The man who helped me. I need to thank him." The paramedics tried to get her to lie back down, but she was insistent. Thomas walked over to the ambulance. "Thank you," she said, tears streaming down her face. "Thank you so much. I don't even know your name, Thomas, and you don't need to thank me. Anyone would have done the same." "No," she said firmly. "Not everyone. You risked your life. How can I ever repay you?" Thomas shook his head. "You don't owe me anything. Just get yourself checked out at the hospital and take care of yourself. But really, it's okay. I'm just glad you're safe." The paramedics closed the ambulance doors and it pulled away, sirens wailing. Thomas stood there for a moment, watching it go. His hands were starting to sting now from all the cuts. Another officer approached him. "We'll need you to come down to the station tomorrow to give a full statement. Here's a card with the case number." "Sure, no problem. You did a brave thing tonight. Not many people would have done what you did." Thomas just nodded, suddenly feeling exhausted. All he wanted was to get Maya home, tuck her into bed, and forget this entire night had happened. He walked back to his car, where Maya immediately unlocked the doors. As soon as he sat down, she leaned forward from the back seat and wrapped her arms around his neck. "Dad, you were so brave. You saved that lady." He hugged her back, feeling her small body trembling. "It's okay, baby. Everything's okay now." As he drove away from the scene, Thomas caught one last glimpse of the flashing lights in his rearview mirror. He had no idea that the woman he'd just saved was Sophia Harrington, only daughter of billionaire CEO Richard Harrington. He had no idea that this one moment of doing the right thing was about to turn his entire life upside down. All he knew was that he'd done what any decent person would do. He had a daughter too, after all. He'd want someone to help her if she was ever in trouble. That thought, simple as it was about to become more important than he could possibly imagine. 3 days had passed since the accident, and Thomas had almost convinced himself that life was back to normal. Almost. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw that car teetering on the edge. Every time Maya asked him about the lady you saved, he had to relive those terrifying seconds all over again. He was at the construction site, 40 feet up on scaffolding, when his coworker Danny called up to him. "Hey, Thomas, someone's here to see you." Thomas looked down and felt his stomach drop. 3 black SUVs had pulled up to the construction site, completely out of place among the work trucks and equipment. Men in dark suits were getting out, and from the middle vehicle emerged someone Thomas recognized from billboards and news articles around town. Richard Harrington, the tech billionaire himself. "You've got to be kidding me," Thomas muttered. He climbed down the scaffolding, his work boots clanging against the metal. By the time he reached the ground, every worker on the site had stopped what they were doing to stare. "You didn't see people like Richard Harrington at places like this, Thomas Chen?" Richard asked, extending his hand. "That's me." Thomas shook his hand, very aware of how dirty his own work gloves were compared to Richard's expensive suit. "I'm Richard Harrington. I believe you saved my daughter's life 3 nights ago." The whole construction site had gone completely silent. Everyone was listening. "Is she okay?" Thomas asked. "I mean, I saw her go off in the ambulance, but I never heard what happened after." "She's recovering well, thanks to you. Concussion, a few cuts, some bruised ribs. But she's alive." Richard's voice cracked slightly. "She's alive because you didn't hesitate. Because you put yourself at risk when you could have just driven past." Thomas shifted uncomfortably. "I just did what anyone would do." "No," Richard said firmly. "You did what very few people would actually do. Most people, if they're being honest with themselves, would have called 911 and waited. You could have been killed. That car could have gone over with you trying to get her out. Thomas didn't know what to say to that. It was true. He'd thought about it since then in the quiet moments. How easily he could have ended up in that river too, leaving Maya without a father. Mr. Harrington, I appreciate you coming down here, but really, I don't need any thanks. I'm just happy your daughter's okay. Richard reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope. I want to give you something. As a token of my gratitude. He held out the envelope. Thomas didn't take it. What's in there? $500,000. The words hung in the air. Thomas heard someone behind him gasp. $500,000. That was more money than Thomas would make in 10 years of construction work. That was a college fund for Maya. That was a house. That was everything. I can't accept that, Thomas said. Richard looked confused. I'm sorry. I can't take your money, Mr. Harrington. That's not why I helped your daughter. I know that's not why you did it. But Thomas, you saved the most precious thing in my life. Let me show you how grateful I am. Thomas felt everyone's eyes on him. His coworkers probably thought he was crazy. Maybe he was crazy. But something about taking money for saving someone's life felt wrong to him. Like he'd be putting a price on doing the right thing. Look, Thomas said, I have a daughter too. She's 8 years old and she's my whole world. If she was ever in trouble, I'd hope someone would help her. Not because they expected to get paid, but because it's the right thing to do. That's all I did. The right thing. Richard stared at him for a long moment. You really mean that? Yes, sir, I do. You're turning down $500,000. I guess I am. Richard slowly put the envelope back in his jacket. He looked at Thomas like he was trying to solve a puzzle. I've met a lot of people in my life, Thomas. Politicians, CEOs, celebrities. And I can count on one hand the number of people who would do what you just did. Actually, I can't count any. You're the first. Thomas felt embarrassed. I'm not special, Mr. Harrington. I'm just a regular guy trying to raise his daughter right. Then you're doing an excellent job. Richard paused. If you won't let me thank you with money, is there anything else I can do? Anything at all? Thomas thought about it. His boss, Frank, had been complaining for months about how hard it was to get contracts with the bigger companies in the city. They always went with the established firms, never giving smaller operations a chance. Honest work, Thomas said. That's all I need. My company does good work, solid work. We're reliable, we show up on time, we don't cut corners. But we're small, so the big contracts always go to someone else. If you know of anyone who needs construction work done, and you think we'd be a good fit, that's all I'd ask. A fair shot at doing the job right. Richard pulled out his phone and typed something. What's your company's name? Riverside Construction. Our boss is Frank Morrison. Riverside Construction, Richard repeated. I'll remember that. He put his phone away and extended his hand again. Thank you, Thomas. For everything. They shook hands and Richard got back into his SUV. As the convoy pulled away, the construction site erupted in noise. Are you insane? Danny practically shouted. Did you just turn down $500,000? I guess I did, Thomas said, picking up his tools. Why? Thomas climbed back onto the scaffolding. Because Maya's watching. Because I want her to know that some things matter more than money. Yeah, but $500,000, man. Thomas didn't respond. He went back to work, trying to ignore the looks his co-workers were giving him. Half of them probably thought he was stupid. The other half probably thought he was lying and had secretly taken the money anyway. That evening, as Thomas was giving Maya dinner, his phone rang. It was Frank. Thomas, you're not going to believe this. We just got a call from Harrington Tech. They want us to bid on a renovation project for their downtown office building. Thomas nearly dropped his fork. What? Yeah, I know. This is huge, Thomas. This could be the biggest contract we've ever had. Did this have anything to do with that thing that happened the other night? I don't know, Frank, maybe. Well, whatever you did, it worked. We're meeting with their facilities manager next week. After Thomas hung up, Maya looked at him with her big, curious eyes. Was that about the lady you saved, Dad? Maybe, sweetheart. Are we going to be rich now? Thomas laughed. No, baby. But we might get some good work out of it. That's even better than being rich. How is that better? Because we'll earn it. We'll do a good job and people will know they can trust us. That's worth more than any amount of money someone just hands you. Maya thought about this for a moment. I think I get it. Like how I feel better when I earn a good grade instead of when someone just gives me a sticker. Exactly like that. But Thomas's good mood didn't last long. 2 days later, on Saturday morning, there was a knock on his apartment door. When he opened it, his heart sank. Standing in the hallway was his ex-wife, Vanessa. He hadn't seen her in almost 3 years, not since she'd left him and Maya without even a goodbye note. Just packed her bags one day while they were out and never came back. "Hello, Thomas," she said, like no time had passed at all. "Vanessa, what are you doing here? Can I come in?" Every instinct told him to say no, but Maya was in her bedroom, and if she heard her mother's voice, there would be questions. Lots of questions. He stepped aside and let Vanessa in. She looked different, more polished. Her clothes were expensive, her hair was done professionally. The struggling artist he'd married was gone, replaced by someone who looked like she shopped in the same stores as Sophia Harrington. "I saw you on the news," Vanessa said, getting right to the point. "Well, not the news exactly, but people are talking about it online. The guy who saved Richard Harrington's daughter. That's what this is about? I want to see Maya." Thomas felt his chest tighten. "You left her, Vanessa. You left both of us without even a phone call. For 3 years. I know, and I'm sorry about that. But I'm in a better place now. I'm remarried, I have stability, and I think Maya deserves to have her mother in her life. You gave up that right when you walked away. Thomas, I'm not here to fight. I just want to be part of my daughter's life again." "After 3 years? Out of nowhere? Right after you saw that I had some connection to one of the richest men in the city?" Thomas kept his voice low, but anger was building inside him. "This isn't about Maya at all, is it?" Vanessa's expression hardened. "What are you implying?" "I'm implying that you didn't care about your daughter until you thought there might be money involved." "That's not true, isn't it? Tell me, Vanessa, did you even remember her birthday this year? Or last year? Did you send a card? A text? Anything?" She didn't answer. "That's what I thought," Thomas said. "You need to leave. I want to see Maya." "No, I have rights, Thomas. You abandoned her." "You have no rights." Vanessa's voice went cold. "I'll get a lawyer. I'll fight for custody. On what grounds? You left. You chose not to be here. And what are you going to tell the judge? That you risked your life and your daughter's safety by stopping at a car accident? That you're taking money from billionaires?" "I didn't take any money." "I'm sure that's what you'll say." Vanessa headed for the door. "But we both know how things look, don't we? Richard Harrington's grateful. His daughter's alive because of you. You expect anyone to believe he didn't give you anything? It's the truth. We'll see what a judge thinks." "You'll be a..." The coffee shop Sophia had suggested was in a part of town Thomas rarely visited. Everything here was polished and expensive, the kind of place where a simple cup of coffee cost more than his lunch. He almost turned around 3 times before finally parking his old truck between 2 luxury cars that probably cost more than he made in a year. Sophia was already there, sitting in a corner booth. She looked much better than the last time he'd seen her, though a fading bruise was still visible on her forehead. She stood up when she saw him, and for a moment they both just stood there, not quite sure how to greet each other. "Thank you for coming," she said finally. "Of course. How are you feeling? Better? The headaches are getting less frequent." She gestured to the seat across from her. "Please sit. Order anything you want. It's on me." Thomas ordered a regular coffee, nothing fancy. When the waitress left, Sophia leaned forward. "I need you to understand something," she said. "I remember everything about that night. The car spinning, the impact, the water right there below me. And I remember you. You didn't hesitate. You could have waited for the fire department, but you didn't. The car was going to fall. There wasn't time to wait." "Exactly. Most people would have convinced themselves there was time. They would have called 911 and stepped back, but you knew there wasn't time, and you acted." She wrapped her hands around her coffee cup. "My father told me you refused his money." Thomas shifted uncomfortably. "It didn't feel right." "Why not?" "Because I didn't help you to get paid. I helped you because it was the right thing to do." Sophia studied him for a long moment. "You're not like most people I meet. I'm just a regular guy. That's exactly what makes you different." She smiled sadly. "You'd be surprised how few regular people I actually get to meet. Everyone wants something. Everyone has an angle. But you just wanted me to be safe." Thomas took a sip of his coffee, not sure what to say to that. "Can I ask you something?" Sophia said. "You have a daughter, right?" "My father mentioned it." "Yeah, Maya. She's 8. What's she like? Thomas couldn't help but smile. She's amazing. Smart, funny, way too stubborn. She gets that from me, I think. She's into space right now. Wants to be an astronaut. That's wonderful. Sophia's expression grew thoughtful. You know, I volunteer at community centers sometimes. Teaching art classes, helping with after-school programs. It's one of the few things I do that feels real, you know? Not just because my father's name is on a check. That's great that you do that. There's a program at the Riverside Community Center. They're always looking for volunteers for the after-school activities. Would Maya happen to go there? Thomas felt a small alarm bell go off in his head. Sometimes. When I'm running late from work, my neighbor picks her up from school and takes her there until I can get her. I could stop by sometime. Not to intrude or anything. I'd like to give back somehow, even if it's not directly to you. Before Thomas could respond, his phone rang. It was a number he didn't recognize. He normally wouldn't answer, but something made him pick up. Hello? Mr. Chen? This is Jennifer Walsh from Donahue and Walsh Legal. I'm calling on behalf of my client, Vanessa Chen, regarding custody arrangements for your daughter, Maya. Thomas felt his blood run cold. She'd really done it. Vanessa had actually gotten a lawyer. I'm going to have to call you back, Thomas said, his voice tight. We can discuss. He hung up. Sophia was looking at him with concern. Is everything okay? It's complicated. Thomas ran a hand through his hair. My ex-wife. She left us 3 years ago, and now suddenly she wants custody of Maya. I'm so sorry. She saw the news coverage about the accident. About your father. She thinks there's money involved, and now she wants back in. The words came out bitter. It's not about Maya at all. It's never been about Maya for her. Sophia's expression hardened. People can be incredibly selfish. Yeah, well, now I have to deal with it. Thomas stood up. I'm sorry, I should go. I need to find a lawyer, figure out what to do. Wait. Sophia pulled out a card and wrote something on the back. This is a family lawyer my father's company has used. She's excellent. Tell her I referred you. Thomas looked at the card. I can't afford lawyers like this. She owes my family a favor. Just call her, please. Thomas pocketed the card, not sure if he'd actually use it. Thanks for the coffee. Over the next 2 weeks, Thomas's life became a nightmare. Vanessa's lawyer sent paperwork demanding a custody evaluation. They questioned whether Thomas was providing a stable home environment. They brought up the accident, twisting it to make it sound like he'd endangered Maya by stopping to help. The Harrington contract had come through, which should have been good news. But Vanessa's lawyer somehow found out about it and started claiming Thomas must have received payment from Richard Harrington and was hiding assets. Thomas finally called the lawyer Sophia had recommended. Her name was Patricia Reeves, and she was as sharp as Sophia had promised. But even she looked worried when she reviewed the case. The problem is appearance, Patricia explained in her office. Your ex-wife's lawyer is painting a picture of someone who's distracted, who takes risks, who might have come into money he's not disclosing. None of it's true, but they don't need truth. They just need doubt. So what do? We fight. We show you're a dedicated father who's been raising Maya alone for 3 years. We show that Vanessa abandoned her daughter. But I'll be honest with you, Thomas. This could get expensive, and how expensive? She named a figure that made Thomas's heart sink. Even with his savings and the money from the new contract, he'd be wiped out. Do I have a choice? No, Patricia said simply. You don't. Thomas threw himself into work and preparing for the custody battle. But the stress was affecting everything. He snapped at his coworkers. He couldn't sleep. And worst of all, Maya was starting to notice something was wrong. Dad, are you mad at me? She asked one night at dinner. What? No, baby, of course not. Why would you think that? You seem sad all the time now, and you're always on the phone talking in a quiet voice. Thomas put down his fork and pulled Maya into a hug. I'm not mad at you. I could never be mad at you. I'm just dealing with some grown-up stuff right now. But it's going to be okay. Promise? Promise. But he wasn't sure he could keep that promise. True to her word, Sophia started volunteering at the Riverside Community Center. Thomas saw her there one afternoon when he picked up Maya. She was helping kids with an art project, and she was good at it, patient and encouraging. Maya, Thomas said. This is Sophia, she's a friend of mine. Hi, Maya said shyly. Hi, Maya, your dad told me you want to be an astronaut. That's so cool. Maya's eyes lit up. Do you like space? I love space. Did you know there's a meteor shower next week? You might be able to see it if the sky is clear. Really? Really? You should ask your dad to take you somewhere dark where you can see the stars better. As they walked to the car, Maya was chattering excitedly about the meteor shower. It was the happiest Thomas had seen her in weeks. I like Sophia, Maya said. She's nice. Yeah, she is. What Thomas didn't know was that Sophia was noticing things too. She saw how tired Thomas looked. She heard Maya mention, in passing, that her mom was coming back, and it made her feel weird. And when one of the other volunteers mentioned that Thomas was going through a custody battle with his ex-wife, Sophia's protective instincts kicked in. That evening, she called her father. The man who saved my life is being punished for it, she told Richard. His ex-wife came back because she thinks you paid him. Now she's trying to take his daughter away. Richard was quiet for a moment. What do you want to do about it? I don't know. But it's not right. He refused your money because he's a good person, and now he's being hurt because of it. I can help with legal fees, Richard offered. He won't take it. You know he won't. He's too proud, too principled. Then what? Sophia thought about it. I don't know yet, but I'll figure something out. Meanwhile, Vanessa was preparing her own strategy. She'd started showing up at Maya's school, talking to teachers, presenting herself as the concerned mother who'd been kept away from her daughter. She was good at it too, playing the victim, making people feel sorry for her. The preliminary custody hearing was set for 3 weeks away. Thomas spent every spare moment preparing with Patricia, gathering evidence of his 3 years of single parenthood, documenting every school event, every doctor's appointment, every soccer game. But the night before the hearing, Maya came out of her room crying. I don't want to go with Mom, she sobbed. I don't even know her anymore. She left us, Dad. Why does she get to come back and change everything? Thomas held his daughter while she cried, feeling completely helpless. This was his worst fear, that Maya would be hurt by all of this. She was 8 years old. She shouldn't have to deal with this kind of pain. Listen to me, he said, wiping her tears. Whatever happens, I love you more than anything in the world. And I'm going to fight for you with everything I have, okay? What if it's not enough? That was the question that kept Thomas up all night. What if it wasn't enough? What if doing the right thing, being a good person, wasn't enough to protect his daughter? At the community center the next day, Sophia found Maya sitting alone, looking miserable. Without being intrusive, she sat down nearby and started drawing. Want to help me with something? Sophia asked. Maya nodded. The courthouse was imposing, all gray stone and tall columns that made Thomas feel small. He stood on the steps in his only suit, the one he'd bought for job interviews years ago, trying to calm his racing heart. Patricia stood beside him, reviewing notes one last time. Remember, she said, answer the questions directly. Don't volunteer extra information, and don't let them make you angry. That's what they want. Got it. And Thomas, you're a good father. That's going to come through. He wished he felt as confident as she sounded. Inside the courtroom, Vanessa was already seated with her lawyer, a man named Harold Breckman, who had the kind of smile that made Thomas's skin crawl. Vanessa looked perfect, like she'd stepped out of a magazine. Her new husband sat behind her, a guy named Kyle who worked in real estate and apparently had family money to burn on lawyers. The judge, a woman named Helena Morrison, took her seat and the hearing began. Breckman went first, and he was good. He painted a picture of a devoted mother who'd struggled with postpartum issues, who'd needed time to get help, and who was now stable and ready to be part of her daughter's life again. He made it sound almost noble that Vanessa had left. And during this time, Breckman said, while my client was working on her mental health, Mr. Chen was taking risks with their daughter's safety. On the night of October 3rd, he stopped at a car accident with his 8-year-old daughter in the vehicle. He left her alone in the car while he pulled a stranger from a vehicle that could have exploded at any moment. Thomas felt his jaw clench. Patricia put a hand on his arm, a warning to stay calm. Furthermore, Breckman continued, Mr. Chen has recently come into contact with the Harrington family, one of the wealthiest families in the city. We believe there has been financial compensation that Mr. Chen has not disclosed, which raises questions about his honesty and fitness as a guardian. Patricia stood up. Your Honor, there is absolutely no evidence of any financial payment. Mr. Chen has provided complete financial disclosure. These are baseless accusations designed to muddy the waters. Then perhaps Mr. Chen can explain the sudden contract his employer received from Harrington Tech, Breckman said smoothly. Shortly after the accident? That's a business contract awarded on merit, Patricia countered. Mr. Chen's employer bid for the work like any other contractor. The judge held up a hand. I'll hear testimony from both parties and make my own determination. Mr. Breckman, call your first witness. Vanessa took the stand. She was poised and articulate, describing how much she missed Maya, how she'd gotten the help she needed, how she was ready to be a mother again. She even cried at one point, dabbing her eyes with a tissue. When Patricia cross-examined her, things got more interesting. Mrs. Brennan, Patricia said, using Vanessa's new married name, you stated you left due to mental health struggles. Did you seek treatment at that time? I got help, yes. From a medical professional? I spoke with people, yes. Do you have documentation of this treatment? Records from a therapist or psychiatrist? Vanessa hesitated. I don't think I need to provide that. Your Honor, Patricia said, if Mrs. Brennan is claiming mental health issues as the reason for abandoning her daughter for 3 years, I think documentation is relevant, the judge agreed. Vanessa admitted she didn't have any records because she hadn't actually sought professional help. First crack in the perfect image, Patricia pressed on. In the 3 years you were absent, how many times did you contact your daughter? It was complicated. How many times, Mrs. Brennan? I sent some cards. How many? I don't remember exactly. Patricia pulled out a document. According to Mr. Chen's records, you sent 2 birthday cards in 3 years. You called once 14 months ago. You sent no Christmas gifts, no presents for any occasion. Is that accurate? Vanessa's lawyer objected, but the damage was done. The judge had seen the truth. Vanessa hadn't been a mother to Maya in any meaningful way. Then it was Thomas's turn on the stand. He testified about the past 3 years, the bedtime stories, the homework help, the soccer practices. He talked about Maya's love of space, her fear of thunderstorms, her favorite foods. He knew his daughter inside and out because he'd been there every single day. When Breckman cross-examined him, the lawyer went straight for the accident. Mr. Chen, on the night of October 3rd, you made a choice to stop at an accident scene with your young daughter in the car, correct? Yes. You left her alone in that car? I told her to lock the doors and stay inside. But you left her alone while you approached a vehicle that was, by your own testimony, unstable and smoking. A vehicle that could have exploded or caught fire. Thomas took a breath. Someone's life was in danger. I couldn't just drive away, even with your daughter in the car. I made sure Maya was safe first. Then I helped someone who needed help. And you don't think that shows poor judgment? I think it shows my daughter that we don't turn our backs on people who need help. How convenient, Breckman said with that oily smile, that the person you helped turned out to be the daughter of a billionaire. I didn't know who she was, but you know now. And now your company has a lucrative contract with her father's corporation. That contract was earned. We submitted a bid. We do good work. And the fact that you saved his daughter had nothing to do with it? Patricia objected. Speculation, Your Honor. There's no evidence of any impropriety. The judge sustained the objection, but Thomas could see the doubt in her eyes. That's what Breckman wanted, just enough doubt to question everything. The hearing continued for another hour with various testimonies from Maya's teachers and neighbors. Everyone spoke highly of Thomas, but Breckman managed to twist everything, suggesting Thomas was overcompensating, that he kept Maya busy to avoid dealing with her emotional needs. Finally, the judge called a recess. I'll review the testimony and evidence. We'll reconvene in 1 hour for my decision. Thomas sat in the hallway with Patricia, his hands shaking. How did I do? You did well, she said, but she didn't sound convinced. The problem is that Vanessa looks good on paper now. Stable marriage, nice home, claims she's ready to be a mother, and they've successfully planted doubt about your judgment. I can't lose her, Patricia. I can't, I know. That's when Sophia appeared. Thomas hadn't seen her in the courtroom, but she was walking toward him with purpose. Sophia? What are you doing here? I heard about the hearing. I need to talk to your lawyer. Patricia stood up. Miss Harrington, I'm Patricia Reeves. I want to testify, Sophia said. I want to tell the judge what really happened that night, and what kind of man Thomas is. You weren't on the witness list. I don't care. I'm here now, and I have relevant testimony. Patricia looked at Thomas, who nodded. Let's talk to the judge. When the hearing reconvened, Patricia requested permission to call one additional witness. Breckman objected strenuously, but the judge, curious, allowed it. Sophia took the stand and stated her name for the record. Every person in that courtroom knew who she was. Even the judge seemed slightly starstruck. "Miss Harrington," Patricia began, "can you describe what happened on the night of October 3rd? Sophia described the accident in vivid detail. The fear. The car sliding toward the edge, the water below. I was conscious but trapped. I could see the river. I thought I was going to die. What happened next? Thomas Chen saved my life. He broke through the window and pulled me out seconds before my car went over the edge." Sophia's voice was steady but emotional. "If he had waited even 30 seconds more, I would have drowned." "And were you aware that his daughter was in his car at the time?" "Not then, but I learned about it later. And I understand that Mr. Breckman has tried to use this as evidence of poor judgment." Sophia looked directly at the judge. "Your Honor, I've had weeks to think about that night. Thomas Chen had seconds to make a decision. He saw someone in danger and he acted. Yes, his daughter was in his car, but she was safe. He made sure of that first. Then he did what any decent human being should do. He helped someone who needed help." Breckman stood up to cross-examine. But Sophia wasn't intimidated. "Miss Harrington, isn't it true that your father offered Mr. Chen a substantial reward?" "Yes, $500,000, gasps in the courtroom. Even Thomas hadn't known the exact amount was public knowledge. "And Mr. Chen accepted this money?" "No, he refused it," more gasps. Breckman looked thrown. "He refused it?" "Completely. He said, and I quote, 'I have a daughter too. I'd hope someone would do the same for her.' He didn't want payment for doing the right thing. But his company received a contract, yes, because they submitted a competitive bid and they do excellent work. My father's company awards contracts based on merit. The fact that Thomas saved my life had nothing to do with the business decision. You can't possibly know that. I absolutely can. I was there when my father reviewed the bids. I watched him choose Riverside Construction because their proposal was solid and their reputation is excellent. Thomas never asked for anything except a fair shot at honest work." Sophia turned back to the judge. "Your Honor, I've spent time with Thomas and his daughter. I volunteer at the community center where Maya goes after school. I've seen them together. I've seen how much he loves her, how he's always there for her, how she lights up when he walks in the room. That little girl knows she's loved. She feels safe with him. And she's SC. 6 months had passed since the custody hearing, and Thomas still sometimes woke up in the middle of the night, his heart pounding, replaying that moment when the judge had announced her decision. Those few seconds before she'd spoken had felt like hours, like his entire life hanging by a thread. But then morning would come, and Maya would bounce into his room asking what was for breakfast, and he'd remember that everything had turned out okay. Better than okay, actually. The renovation project at Harrington Tech had gone so well that word had spread. Other companies started calling Riverside Construction, wanting to know if they had availability. Frank had to hire 3 new workers just to keep up with the demand. Thomas got promoted to project manager, which came with a decent raise and more reasonable hours. More importantly, it meant he could be home for dinner with Maya almost every night. "Dad, Sophia's coming over today, right?" Maya asked one Saturday morning, sprinkling way too much sugar on her cereal. "Easy on the sugar, Space Cadet. And yes, she's coming over this afternoon. We're all going to the planetarium, remember?" "I can't wait." Sophia said they have a new exhibit about Mars. Over the past few months, Sophia had become a regular part of their lives. It hadn't been planned or forced. It just happened naturally. She'd continue volunteering at the community center, and Maya had gravitated toward her. Then Sophia started joining them for weekend activities, museums, parks, the occasional movie. Thomas had been cautious at first, worried about Maya getting too attached to someone who might disappear from their lives. Rich people had busy schedules, important things to do. But Sophia kept showing up, week after week, and slowly Thomas started to believe she was there because she wanted to be. His phone rang. It was Patricia Reeves. "Good news," she said. "Vanessa's lawyer just filed paperwork withdrawing her visitation petition." Thomas felt a weight lift off his shoulders he hadn't realized was still there. "She's giving up?" "Completely. Apparently she and her husband are moving to Arizona. Something about his family business. She signed away all parental rights in exchange for not having to pay any back child support. So it's really over? It's really over, Thomas. Maya is yours, no strings attached. After he hung up, Thomas sat at the kitchen table for a moment, letting it sink in. Vanessa was gone for good this time. Maya would never have to worry about being taken away from the only home she'd ever really known. Dad? Maya was looking at him with concern. Are you okay? You look like you're going to cry. Thomas laughed and pulled her into a hug. I'm better than okay, kiddo. I'm perfect. That afternoon, Sophia arrived right on time. She'd traded in her expensive clothes for jeans and a t-shirt, looking more like a regular person than a billionaire's daughter. Thomas sometimes forgot who she was, which he suspected was exactly what she wanted. Ready for Mars? Sophia asked Maya. So ready. At the planetarium, Maya was in heaven. She dragged them from exhibit to exhibit, reading every plaque, asking a million questions. Sophia was patient with all of it, even when Maya wanted to watch the same video about the Mars rovers 3 times in a row. You're really good with her, Thomas said while Maya was occupied with an interactive display. Sophia smiled. She's easy to be good with. She's a great kid, Thomas. You've done an amazing job raising her. I've had some help lately. I like helping. It feels... Sophia paused, searching for the words. It feels real. Does that make sense? Most of my life is people telling me what I want to hear, or what they think I want to hear. But Maya just tells me things. Yesterday she told me my hair looked weird. Do you know how refreshing that is? Thomas laughed. She has no filter sometimes. I'm working on it. Don't. It's perfect. They watched Maya for a moment, both lost in their own thoughts. Can I tell you something? Sophia said quietly. That night when you pulled me out of the car, I was so scared I couldn't think straight. But I remember your voice. You kept telling me it was going to be okay, that you had me. And I believed you. I don't know why, but I believed you. I'm glad I was there. I'm glad you were the kind of person who stopped. Sophia turned to look at him. My father keeps wanting to do something for you. Some grand gesture. It drives him crazy that you won't let him. I don't need grand gestures. I know. That's what makes you so frustrating to people like us. She smiled to show she was teasing. We're used to fixing things with money, but you can't be fixed because you're not broken. I'm definitely broken in some ways, Thomas said. Single parent. Constantly worried I'm screwing up. Never quite sure if I'm doing enough. That just means you care. The people who don't worry are the ones who should. Richard Harrington had, to his credit, respected Thomas's boundaries. He'd called once about a month after the hearing just to check in. The conversation had been brief but warm. Richard had said something that stuck with Thomas. Sophia smiles more now. I haven't seen her this happy in years. So whatever you think about my money, just know that you gave me something I couldn't buy. My daughter's joy. Thank you for that. Dad? Sophia, come look at this. Maya was bouncing with excitement near a display about future Mars missions. They spent another hour at the planetarium before heading out for pizza. It had become their routine. These Saturday adventures followed by dinner at Maya's favorite pizza place. Nothing fancy, just a local spot with good food and terrible arcade games that Maya loved. While Maya was off trying to win tickets from a claw machine, Sophia brought up something that had clearly been on her mind. My father is hosting a charity gala next month. It's for education programs in underfunded schools. I was wondering if you and Maya would want to come. Thomas immediately felt uncomfortable. That's not really our scene. I know. It's not really my scene either, if I'm being honest. But it would mean a lot to my father if you came. And to me. Sophia, I'm not trying to push you into some society life or anything like that. It's just one evening. Maya would love it. They always have this amazing dessert table. And my father wants to publicly thank you for saving my life. I don't need public thanks. I know you don't. But maybe let him do this? Not for you, but for him. He needs to express his gratitude somehow, and this is the only way you've let him. Thomas thought about it. The idea of getting dressed up and schmoozing with rich people made his skin crawl. But Sophia was right. Richard needed this. And maybe Thomas needed to let people be grateful sometimes. Okay, he said. One gala. Sophia's face lit up. Really? Really? But I'm not wearing a tuxedo. You'll look great in a tuxedo. I said I'm not wearing one. We'll see, Sophia said with a grin. The night of the gala, Thomas did end up in a tuxedo. Sophia had sent one over, perfectly tailored, with a note that said, just try it on. If you hate it, wear whatever you want. He'd tried it on, and Maya had gasped and said, "Dad, you look like a movie star." And that had been the end of that discussion. Maya wore a dress that made her feel like a princess, and she wouldn't stop twirling in it. "Do you think there will be dancing?" she asked for the 100th time in the car. "Probably," Thomas said, his hands gripping the steering wheel a little too tight. The gala was being held at a hotel downtown, the kind of place Thomas had only seen from the outside. When they pulled up to the valet, Maya's eyes went wide. "This is so fancy." Inside was even more impressive. Crystal chandeliers, live music, tables covered in white linens and flowers. Thomas had never felt more out of place in his life. But then Sophia appeared, looking beautiful in a blue dress, and she took his arm like it was the most natural thing in the world. "You made it," she said. "And Maya, you look absolutely beautiful." "So do you," Maya said. Richard Harrington found them almost immediately. He shook Thomas's hand warmly. "Thomas, I'm so glad you came." "Thank you for inviting us, Mr. Harrington. Please call me Richard. Mr. Harrington makes me feel old." He crouched down to Maya's level. "And you must be Maya. Your father has told me so much about you." "He has?" Maya looked up at Thomas, surprised. "Of course. He's very proud of you. Did you know he shows everyone pictures of your science project?" "Dad," Maya said, embarrassed but pleased. The evening went better than Thomas expected. Yes, people stared at him. Yes, there were whispers about, "That's the guy who saved Sophia Harrington." But Sophia stayed close, introducing him to people, making him feel included rather than out of place. Halfway through the evening, Richard took the stage to make a speech about the charity and its mission. Then his tone changed. "Before we continue with the evening's program, I want to take a moment to talk about something personal. 6 months ago, my daughter was in a terrible accident. Her car went off the road and ended up hanging over the edge of a wall above the river. She should have died that night." The room went completely silent. Sophia grabbed Thomas's hand, giving it a squeeze. "But she didn't die, because a man named Thomas Chen stopped his car, left his own daughter in safety, and pulled Sophia from that vehicle seconds before it fell into the water." Thomas didn't know who Sophia was. He didn't know who I was. He just saw someone who needed help, and he helped. Richard paused, his voice thick with emotion. When I tried to thank him with money, he refused. He said, "I have a daughter too." I'd hoped someone would do the same for her. That simple statement, that basic human decency, is something I'll never forget. People were turning to look at Thomas now.